we are really proud. And I don't see Giorgio, yes, Giorgio is there. We are very proud, Giorgio Bartolomucci, to host 1 or 2 events this year again within the 15 edition of Diplomacy, Diplomacy Festival. And this year, Diplomacy is dedicated to the multiple facets of power, looking for Kratos. Again, compliments for the choice of the title that is always very creative. Really, thank you. The concept of power is being analyzed through the entire week of meetings here in Rome. As you know, for those who don't know, the Festival della Diplomazia is an event that is now quite well recognized in the Italian environment, because they are, let's say, they are putting the diplomatic issues in direct contact with the public opinion within the city. More than 100 events are going to be organized this week in Italy, in many, let's say, private or public organization. And again, as I was saying, we are very proud to host this meeting today. And I think that when we are talking about power, no doubt that an EU custom reform is an expression of power. And the event of today is dedicated to the new European customs regulation and the non-EU countries. And at the moment in the room we have Mr. Eduardo Moura. Mr. Eduardo Moura is a lawyer, business consultant. You have assisted many international Commonwealth companies setting up businesses in Italy through the regulatory, startups, and development phases. So I think it will be a change. And we will have many others that are coming. But I think that without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Eduard Moura. Mrs. Eduard Moura, as I was telling in the introduction, you are the president of the Commonwealth Club of Rome, director of the Australian Business Network in Italy, among many other things. And please, in 5 minutes, give us exactly what you are doing for the business Italian environment in Italy, also related with customs too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you all for being here. I feel inadequate, in a sense, to discuss these things amongst representatives of Ship Owners Association of Europe, but in reality, I'm just here for a very small part of a observation from some non-EU countries, which are which is this Commonwealth standpoint. Let me just mention one of our members here, the Deputy Head of Mission of the South African Embassy, Mashal, is on the table here. We welcome that participation. And we have a great interest from the Commonwealth countries. Why? Our origins as a Commonwealth are very synonymous with shipping, so very related to, and to all these countries here, you know, a race around the world, and our countries are one of those groupings that result from that centuries of shipping development and capacity to expand. EURA, for example, which was just mentioned, is in majority Commonwealth countries, and most of our countries are on the sea. 2/3 of our countries are island states, so very much an association of countries that are interested in shipping and, as a result, trade with Europe. Coming from, or since I come from Australia, but since I've been here in Italy, I was, as Lawrence mentioned, I'm involved with a thing called Australian Business Network, but at some point down the track, I look to expand the activities and to common things with what I was doing with Australia, and got involved in the Commonwealth Club. Of course, Australia is one of the members. Instead, back in Australia many years ago, I was an Italian who initially got involved with the Italian Chamber of Commerce, and at some point got involved in a grouping called the European Communities, which at that time was 10 countries, and then 28, now 27, due to one of our members. But I remember back then in Australia, this customs union led to the reference, which stuck in my mind, of Fortress Europe. And, but that was many years ago. Since the introduction of this Union Custom Code and the rules in relation to exporters, who are exporters, and environmental standards, including, for example, those new laws put through for particular things like palm oil, safety standards, processing rules. So how do non-EU countries deal with all this? It seems that the past has been these preferential trade agreements, and of course, Commonwealth countries, 56 of them, many of them are involved in that process of looking at or have entered into these trade agreements. Looking at some of the groupings, of course, we have some Commonwealth countries in the EU, which obviously don't need to have trade agreements. It was Malta, Cyprus, and UK, but now UK has having left, has its own separate agreement. In Africa, there are again a number of groupings south, which includes our representative from South Africa here, SADC, West Africa grouping, East Africa, and all these groupings have got economic partnership agreements, and many of the members have already signed, and some are in the process of signing, and we have few exclusions. In Asia, we have what's happening with Asia, as we've just been told, but we also have what's happening in the Pacific, and there's a Pacific Agreement which covers many of our members in the Pacific. We call it Oceania, and we have New Zealand involved in that, who's formed up an agreement. Canada's finalised an agreement, although some countries are still signing up, and in the Caribbean, most of those countries have finalised an agreement. But having said all this, it seems like we've covered most of the Commonwealth countries, but there are some missing, amongst which my very own Australia, who somehow, after 7 years of negotiating, still hasn't quite got around some of the issues that it needs to get into one of these preferential trade agreements. So, we have some other countries that, have finalised and who are in the process of adopting and ratifying, and others who are on hold, some in Asia, some in Africa. But, I think it's more useful for us to be here as an observer of what is said today, and to be possibly a future conduit for information to these Commonwealth countries, and to help them in the few outstanding ones who are not negotiating or who are on hold, to help them get over the line in terms of some form of agreement. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to this forum, and we look forward to possibly further opportunities where we can bridge the gap between what our members currently are able to do with the European Union and of course all your shipping companies and shipping associations, and what they're in between that and what we're doing now. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moura. Very interesting. I think that I would like that. It was very interesting to hear your views.
And I'm very curious, how does the Commonwealth business is looking at things? If I heard you correctly, 56 countries, that's way bigger than the EU. And the economic impact, of course, as well. But what do you, as a business representative, expect from the government and at all levels? What do you expect to be able, for the shipping industry, to enable the trade between the Commonwealth countries and the EU?
Thank you for the question. Of course, shipping is a big part of this process for most of our countries because they're far-flung, amongst the other side of the globe. But, other than the cost of shipping, there's different areas have different aspects which they find harder to do in this. It's obviously there's a new set of rules, and for people to comply, far-flung around the world, different systems, depending what their system is to start with, how easily it is to adapt to these new requirements that the EC imposes as part of its customs union. And the one thing that I can say from the Commonwealth's perspective is that having had that common background of being Commonwealth countries and the systems that have been implemented, etc., we've done some calculations at the top level of the Commonwealth on the economic side, and we find that that countries that dealing with countries, different countries from the Commonwealth, once you've done one, you sort of have an advantage of doing the next one because there's so many common rules and systems there. So the one suggestion I might have for dealing with the Commonwealth countries from a point of view of educating them in terms of this new economic set of customs rules is that apart from dealing sometimes with various regions of the world, Africa and Asia and etc., there may be an approach that can be done for Commonwealth countries which makes it economically viable to do that way, because you are approaching a group of people who are like-minded. So there may be part of the process of educating our people may be recognition of that and the preparation of something which addresses our particular, set of frameworks.
Thank you very much for your explanation.